So one of the things that I just want to talk about just for a couple of minutes is why we are here. Why are we planning to redevelop Heritage Park? Back last year in the late summer, we completed a capital needs analysis, or consultant completed for us. And so the cost of fixing Heritage Park, the cost of paying for critical repairs over a 3-year period per unit was going to be $177,000. $177,000, and that's almost over $60,000 a year. The housing authority gets less than $3,000 per year per unit for capital repairs. So compared to over $60,000 per year that is needed. So back when I grew up, I believed I was good in math, although my grades didn't show it. But I do understand that $3,000 per year is a lot less than $60,000 per year needed to fix what is at Heritage Park. So this is why we are here, to plan for the redevelopment of Heritage Park, but not just to plan to redevelop the units, to replace the units, but to develop a new community. And part of what we are here for is to imagine what that new community will look like and to plan for it. So thanks for your time. And thanks for your commitment to be here tonight. I want to go on and introduce Peter Levevy of Brenshore Development. He will take it from here, Peter.
Thank you, and I really do want to thank you, Ashley and Kenya, and everybody at the RHA board and staff. You've been fabulous to work with. My name is Peter Levevy, and I'm with Brenshore Development. We're a affordable housing and mixed income development firm that works across the United States. We've been in business for 30 years. We've done several projects of this scale and complexity, and I can say honestly that there hasn't been another project that I've worked on in the 24 years I've been at Brenshore that has had such a robust process of resident input, of community input, of sponsorship from civic organizations, from the city, to all of the different parties that we've spoken to. Everybody is aligned behind the idea of redeveloping Heritage Park. And I've now come here to be part of the planning process 5 times. This is unique. This is an exciting opportunity to reposition this very important site, this very important place that many of you live at, and I'm very proud to be part of it. And I just want to say that we've got a lot of great opportunities over this week to continue this participation, because now is showtime. We are ready to put pen to paper and start designing the site plan, and we're so glad that you're here to participate in it. So I'm going to turn it over to Murphy right now, who's from our planning team. I also just want to thank Raleigh Raised as well. Terrell is here, and I just want to say having Raleigh Raised as part of this team is really important to us. They really know the community, they represent the community, and they've been really a wonderful partner. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. One more time. Good evening. Good. There we go. That chicken's settling in. So I'm Murphy Antoine with Torty Gallison Partners. I'm going to try to get a little closer to you and see if I can do this. But I have an important public service announcement first. We wanted to also thank Arts Together, who's here, and has been with us for these public meetings going back to June. And so we have special Arts Together activities for the kids. If you'd like to join that after dinner back in the front room, there's a room set up. You're welcome to do that instead of listening to old people like me talk. But you have to be under a certain age. The rest of you don't get that chance. So this is the kickoff. This is the kickoff to our week. We are here as a design, planning and development team all week. We have been gathering a lot of information and conversations that we've had going back to June. And now, as Peter said, is the time when we put pen to paper, when we start to draw those ideas that we're hearing from you. And so what we want to do tonight in this kickoff is talk a bit about that process and a bit about how we've gotten here. All right. So this is the agenda for the evening. Again, we've done some introductions. We always want to come back to what we've heard. Again, we've had 5 meetings. We've heard lots of good input, but we want to bring back to the idea of what we're drawing is based on addressing the challenges and the hopes and the aspirations in what we've heard in the meeting. So we're going to recap some of what we've heard. We're going to talk a bit about the workshop process, how this week works, moving up to Thursday night. And then we'll talk a little bit I hope, please call me if I call me out, if I start using too much planner language, but some of the constraints and challenges, the physical challenges of the site that we look at as we start to envision the future, and then we'll have some opportunity for questions and answers. Okay. So again, the team, the development team and the design team on the development side, we have Raleigh Housing Authority, we have Brinshaw, Ashley, the CEO, the executive director of the Housing Authority introduced us. We have Brinshaw, Peter introduced part of it. We have Sarah here with Brinshaw as well, and of course Raleigh Race and Terrell Midget in the back. On the design side, we have Torty Gallison Partners. I'm Murphy Antoine. I'm a principal and planner and architect with Torty Gallis. We have Troy McGee, who you've met several times. Molly Cox has been with us for a couple meetings, and we brought some other folks to help us draw, Mark and Michaela. So we've got the Torty Gallis team here. We've got Mosley, local architecture firm with a ton of North Carolina and affordable housing experience. We have Tom Liebel and Brian Jones here. And then we have D.L. Wall. We heard from Bridget. We also have Dr. Inger Swenson. There's Inger. And Vanessa's here. We got a whole crew from D.L. Wall. So that's us and our team, and many of us you've seen before. And here's just a kind of outline of the process. We were selected as part of this team going back almost a year, going back to last February. We've been doing a lot of stakeholder engagement, finding out who the people we need to talk to about Heritage Park are, meeting with those people, talking to you. And so we had July, August, where we were gathering information. We had meetings in June. We had our meetings in September and October. And then I think we were back here in this room in November before the holidays was the last time we were all together. This is what we would call the main event in terms of the planning. This is the 4 days where we are at your disposal really all week to develop ideas and have that happen before your eyes. It's certainly not the last opportunity to look at the plan, to look at the ideas. So we'll take what we hear this week, we'll redevelop and refine one more version, and then have what we would call a final conceptual plan, a final concept, a final vision of what we want to see at Heritage Park later in the spring. And then we start to get into the process of getting city approvals to do that, of securing the dollars to start to make that happen. So it's its own kickoff into another process when physical redevelopment could start to happen, probably not for another year to 15 months. So that's what seems like a long time away. It goes by quickly, but it's also gives us a lot of opportunity for careful thought about what we want to see and what works in the revitalized Heritage Park. So going back to the meeting schedule, again, we had our first resident meeting in June. You'll remember under the tent, out at Heritage Park on the parking lot on the odd numbered side. We had later in June meetings back here with a larger stakeholder group, getting people from the broader community, the other interest groups. Back in September, also meeting with more individual focused groups, educational institutions, service providers, and the like, with focused conversations on their concerns and their aspirations, again, for what services and opportunities they can bring to Heritage Park. That was in October, and then we were back here in November, and here we are in January for our workshop. So what did we hear? I'm going to pause, and I'm actually going to go through these because I think I know that they're very important. And everything that we draw, everything that we design is based on these concerns and these aspirations and what we've heard and what we will continue to hear as we move along. So first and foremost, from the very first, we've heard about the right to return. The folks that live at Heritage Park today are prioritized and need the right to return to whatever happens in Heritage Park. So that's number one. That's the founding thing that we heard and the piece. More affordable housing options, that we hear that from all over the city, right? That Raleigh needs more affordable housing. Take care of the Heritage Park residents first. But is there an opportunity to expand affordable housing options? And is there an opportunity to expand the kinds of housing options? So affordable senior housing, affordable family housing, not a one size fits all. We've heard a lot about the need for on-site resources. So this is programming, which is not what architects and planners do. But what we do is design the space and the opportunities for the programming for those resources to happen. So things for like childcare, things like activity for the kids of all ages, activities and programming for parents, for childcare prevention, healthcare, healthy grocery, healthy adoption options, small business incubator space, and community space to meet for meetings like this, but also, hey, where can I have my kid's birthday party kind of thing. So working all of that space in and around the homes of a new neighborhood community of revitalized Heritage Park. Open space, so park space to hang out, but community gardens came up, and having that open space be safe and secure. So having, this is another way to play into the opportunities for kids and adults, but having it safe and secure. So it's safe connections to the surrounding community as well. So connected, not isolated, an opportunity for Heritage Park to be better, again, connected and a part of the city, not separated from the city. And then into the details of the home. So we'd like to get into some of the architecture this week as well. So what happens in my home? So we heard things like modern amenities, cleaning and water, hand dryer, dishwashers. We've heard a lot about maintenance of new facilities, new systems, new appliances. That will work. And so those are some of the frequent things that we heard over and over again in many conversations. And then there are shared concerns as well. So this idea of displacement, are the residents of Heritage Park going to get forced out, is a big concern. And that's the displacement part. Are others going to move in? And is that going to be economically driven? And that's the gentrification concern. And it's tied back to that first bullet and the second bullet, the right to return, right? Heritage Park residents at the center of the revitalized community, at the center of the return, and then the opportunity to add more affordable housing, not a market rate driven program. That there's a range of that affordability. So people at very, very low income, people with no income, and then at different percentages of the average income, so that there's a range of affordability both in the income mix and in the type mix. So homes for seniors, as we talked about, homes for families, affordable, different ranges of within the affordability categories. And then safety and security as a big shared concern. And then the sense that there's a loss of connection with the community. So with change, with the revitalization, how can those connections, those people connections for community be maintained even Heritage Parkway? At the same time that we're offering opportunity for better and improved housing. Right, so there's a lot of words on this one, but this is really the schedule for the week. We are combining locations. So we are having our public meetings in the evening in this room, in this great facility at RHA here on Park Street. And that's the kickoff meeting you see on Monday. Those are in blue. Those large public meetings, same time, same back channel, same back location, as we used to say. In this room, 6:30 to 8:30, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, we're working late into the night drawing, but Monday night, Tuesday night, public meeting, and then Thursday night is the big conclusion to the week. Here's what we heard, here's what we've drawn, and how you see it. During the day, in the morning and in the afternoon, we'll be on site at Heritage Park. In the management office, we'll look at the community space there. We are set up in that room, drawing and with open doors for you to come in and talk to us. Right? So there's be some conversation here tonight, but we want to provide opportunities for people at different times of the day. Opportunities for people in different ways of interacting. So just talking, having a one-on-one conversation, and opportunities to do it in a big room like this where we have microphones and hook up the computers to a screen, but also just sitting around the table with paper drawing that's closer to where you live. So this idea that we're there on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on site at Heritage Park in the community room. Please drop in and see what we're doing. Talk to us about what you'd like to see. Look over our shoulder. Help us color if you want as we get to that stage. But the idea is we're available to you directly outside your front door and on site at the Heritage Park. So what are the public meetings? Tomorrow night, this is the kickoff. Tomorrow night, we're going to have ideas that we have drawn. And there will be a whole range of ideas about what the community could be. And we will be looking for your feedback in this public presentation forum on multiple options of that. How do they come back to the things we've heard? How do they come back to the principles? How do they provide different kinds of affordable housing? How do they provide the places for the resources and the community amenities? How do they provide the open space? How do they provide the connections without making cut-throughs? So that's the purpose of tomorrow night, sort of to see where we are. And then we take that feedback, and over the next couple of days, with the additional feedback of people dropping in during the day at Heritage Park, and on Thursday, we'll again come back to what we heard and what we've drawn to reflect. So public meetings tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday night. Then drop-in session all day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll probably close the doors, I'll tell you, around 4:30 or so on Thursday, maybe 4 o'clock on Thursday, just so we can get the final push to get the presentation together and put that together before we come over here. So that's a lot of time, right? And then so these are the description of those kinds of meetings. At the public meetings, we're doing the presentation and having the feedback. At the drop-in, these are opportunities for more individual conversation. And maybe you think of something tomorrow that you didn't think of tonight and have the opportunity to come and talk to us about that. All right. So that's a lot of time, right? We're here all week, and we're here intentionally all week to be accessible to you. We're not asking you or anyone to be part of all of that, right? It was designed to be there at different parts of the day and at different locations here and in Heritage Park. That you can come for as much or as little of that time as you want to. If I was gonna prioritize 2 meetings, I'd say if you could drop by and talk to us sometime during the day, tomorrow or Wednesday, that's what would be, the opportunity for maybe the earliest input that we can get in. And then I'd say Thursday night is the big one. So if you're trying to schedule your time, and if people have lots of things going on, those are the ones I would prioritize. Try to come by and see us at Heritage Park. And then Thursday night for sure, if you can't make it, tomorrow night to sort of see where we are in progress. We're eager to hear from all of you, so we're providing flexible times over several days, so everybody has the opportunity to contribute in the way that works best for them. Here's some of the constraints. So we also have these maps up on boards here. This is an analysis. This is a look at some of the physical aspects of Heritage Park. So if you can place yourself looking at this map, the community center of Heritage Park is here. Here's South Street. Here's Dorothea's. It comes in off Saunders, NLK, and Dawson, the basketball courts, and kind of that sliver of city property here. See the odd number of units down here, the even numbers, kind of the senior quadrant up here. So there's a lot of stuff going on, kind of maybe under the surface that we have to work around. There's a big water pipe that goes right underneath the basketball courts, and that is infrastructure that is a sanitary sewer line that serves a bunch of the city and downtown, moving into Southeast Raleigh. So that's a big constraint to work around, and that's something we have to look at. So what does that tell us? It tells us you can't put a house on top of that. Tells us it's expensive to try to move or do something new with that infrastructure, that sanitary water line. But we know from conversations with the city that something needs to be done with that line anyway. It needs to be upgraded. It needs to be bigger to handle more capacity. So as that starts to happen, what are the opportunities to look at that happening simultaneously with what we're proposing? Does that give us some opportunities to do more as the city is also improving its infrastructure? A couple of other big utilities. There's a Duke Energy easement, an area where you can't build, the big power lines on South Street. They also come down to Saunders. These orange areas are areas that we need to stay out of. So those are areas to stay out of, but what are opportunities for those? What can go in them? Can we park? Can we have trail? And some of this open space be there? They chopped down a bunch of those trees within the last couple of years. What can we do? We had some of those conversations with Duke Energy, and we're continuing that tomorrow. So there's a couple of those easements, and then there's some other easements, areas that we need to stay off of. And then these black lines are sort of the boundary, the property line boundary of Heritage Park proper. And then this piece, this triangle back again by the basketball courts, the little sort of nature area that is actually the city. And the other thing that you see on this plan that is really, I think, an opportunity and starts to tell us where parks might want to be, where open space might want to be, is there's some great trees on Heritage Park, but we work around those. Some of these that are showing up here are those trees that have already been taken down within the last couple of years on Saunders and South. But can we work around some of those other existing trees and help us formulate some of the park spaces around them? The other thing that is pretty obvious about Heritage Park is there's some hills on Heritage Park. So that's what we call grading or topography. It's the slope of the lake. And then you can imagine coming down from South Street, sort of in the middle of the site, how that is pretty steep up there in places, and how it gets pretty flat and pretty salty as you get down towards NLK, right? So there's sort of a ditch, that's where the water stands in a big rain. So paying attention to the slope, and generally the high point adjacent to Heritage Park, is up on South Street and comes down, to the southwest, I guess, it would be, towards MLK. So working with and around the slope of the land is an important constraint. Then there are some connections, so this idea of connectivity. So as the Dorothea Parks or Dorothea Davis Park comes online, how can that be a bigger asset? How can that be a bigger asset for Heritage Park, for the residents of Heritage Park, be a safe connection, which I would not describe it as today, but how can we take advantage of that? The city has talked about the connectivity of West Street, and we do think and have heard that connectivity, connecting Heritage Park to the city, to other, to the neighborhood surrounding, to the larger community is a good thing. How can we do that without encouraging cut-through traffic, without encouraging people speeding through? So talking about connectivity without cut-through. That Heritage Park is a place for residents, it's not a place to zip by and zip through. And then the bus station and that bus system, which seems to serve Heritage Park pretty well along Saunders and then also along South, and then the plans for the bus along the MLK here. So how can we connect? This, I think, is a really interesting map. This is a map of Heritage Park in 1959, or the location of Heritage Park in 1959. And you can again see South Street, you can see Saunders, you can see what is called Cannon Avenue in this map. So before that MLK Dawson interchange all got redeveloped, this is what that looked like. And you can see the homes here. You can see that it's pretty much the same, what we would call pattern. It's the same pattern of the block and the homes as over in Boylan Heights. And all of that changed when the new, or the current Heritage Park went in. So how can something new feel more ingrained and part of the city? There's also South Street as a place for African American business was something that showed up in these earlier maps, and something that we'd be interested in looking at. It's Cannon, Dorothea, and then further down here is where MLK would be. But looking at history and learning from history, both in the physical plan and in the culture and people is part of what we're trying to embed and capture in the design as well. And all of that, again, coming back to these, what we've heard so far and continuing to listen this week to what we'd like to see revitalize coming through the Heritage Park with opportunity for everyone. So here are major points that we also want to unpack. So it's what we've heard and how do those become principles for anything new that happens on Heritage Park. The first one is housing. Right? This is a kind of new improved housing opportunity for folks. New community addresses growing need in Raleigh for housing, particularly quality, affordable housing. So those three words, the main takeaway from the main point: quality, affordable housing. Right? That it's walkable, that you don't have to rely on the car or the bus as your only way to get around, but how can it have a range of accessible amenities that you can get to on foot, on bike if you're a kid, or an adult riding bikes, and services and spaces. So that walkable idea of connectivity, of being connected to all the things that you need for daily life, which ties into point number 3, that it's connected physically, but it's also connected socially, economically, and connected in opportunity. We also talked earlier today about this idea of digital connectivity. So internet, broadband access, how does all of that play into a larger idea of connectivity, and how's it ingrained into the way we're thinking about Heritage Park? That it's diverse and that it reflects a broad economic, cultural, and social diversity, and that it's safe. This is primary, the first and foremost is a safe place to live, that all households feel safe and secure in their homes. So we'll keep coming back to those principles, and as we study options and as we talk about options, that's what we want to hear about. How does that safer than this one? How does this provide housing opportunity different than that? Those will be the discussions. And so that's kind of the outline for the week. Again, we're here drawing, so we're drawing your ideas. We like to say we're your pencils. So come talk to us and let us be those pencils. And let's, by the time we're back here on Thursday night, have something that has portions that we can all see, right? This is a plan that is going to incorporate lots of different ideas from lots of different people. So what I'm asking is let's all continue to listen to each other and then capture those pieces in the plan. So what I'm really saying is by Thursday night, success for me is when we can all look at that plan and say, you know, those guys did listen to us, the designers did listen to us, and here's a piece that I can see that we need something. With that, I'm gonna open it up to questions and answers. But again, it's really encourage folks to drop by, talk to us, and then see how we're doing as we progress through the week. Yes, ma'am. I'll give you the mic now. Is that okay? Go ahead.
I heard you say the city would like for Heritage Park to kind of blend in with all the other around the city, but what is gonna be unique for it to have its own identity and still fit with the name of what they're going to be with it?
Right. So just repeat so everybody can hear that the way the question is phrased is if the city's asking for Heritage Park to blend in with the larger community, what's going to be unique? And I would say the city's not asking that it blend in, but I would say better connected is a goal. So connected is one sense, but the unique part, you hit on something here too. So what should be unique about Heritage Park? That's what we want to hear. I can imagine a framework of the park spaces in Heritage Park would make it unique and feel different than Boyle Heights or a different kind of neighborhood. But I think that imagine the business incubator opportunity space. I could imagine the community space for programming and amenities could help make it unique. But what we really love to hear is what would you like to see that would put the stamp on Heritage Park as a neighborhood to make it unique and continue to be.
Okay, and then with looking at the maps of the history and the Black businesses that were once thriving in that area, how intentional are you all reaching out to Black businesses to gain interest now before they can afford to leave?
So you're coming out here and you probably won't see the answer to this one. I'll say from the planning and architecture perspective, we're providing space to help make that happen.
That's exactly right. We're gonna be providing space so that there's an opportunity for local African Americans to have businesses. I've done this successfully in Chicago. We work with a nonprofit called QCBC, who helps recruit, train, fund, and support African American businesses move into our 400 growth project. We built 16,000 square feet of commercial space in that building, and we got 8 African American businesses put in there, including a very special restaurant called Bronzo Winery, which the story the other day, last summer, saying you have 24 hours in Chicago, what you could do. The very first thing they said was go to Bronzo Winery. We're very proud of it. And we'd love to recreate that kind of success here in Raleigh. So we've got Raleigh Raised on our team. They have connections with a lot of local Latin American entrepreneurs. And we're hoping that, people who have ideas and are looking to have an opportunity, come forward and allow us to help them, be on the site as African American entrepreneurs, who own businesses. So, we're gonna need your help. We can't do it alone, but we're gonna create the space for it and we're gonna support it. And when I say that, I mean, we'll support it by charging rents that are reasonable, below market, and, make it a priority for us overall in business.
So with that, oftentimes in projects like this, if you create space for businesses to come and minimize the housing capabilities for capacity. So are you gonna make sure that the businesses are standalone and not taken away from the density of the housing?
Yeah, so the businesses, are always on the ground floor. So there are a couple of nodes here that make sense for businesses along South and along Saunders, especially at that corner. There's obviously some opportunities. There's already some retail and restaurants across the street. So it seems like the obvious place where they can go. We built buildings that had, much more ground floor with residential development. It's called mixed use, and, it's a housing type I'm very familiar with. Does it cut into the amount of housing? Well, yes, if you could put more housing on the ground floor, then you can have more housing, but it sort of creates a community. It's really not about just bricks and sticks and housing. We're about community development, a holistic approach to community development, which includes places for people to play, to work, to live, to shop, to recreate, to advance their goals. So, we look at this as much more than just housing.
But housing first, right? It's all about the mix and the proportion of how much of this, how much of that, it's gonna be mostly housing. And there's gonna be for some of these other opportunities.
Can I just ask, during this time, being that we have people come in and talk about the development of it and the design, to be coming with people with their ideas? Because if we're asking for businesses, then you're saying, yeah, well, but in that moment, it's gonna cut down on some of the housing units, so that some of us don't have in mind, we're gonna still have 300 housing units, but now we may only have 450,000. So
They have to build a 122 there.
right, but what I'm just saying, in the conversation, as we're doing the design and ideas of the company, be realistic in the conversation of what we can, we're subtracting when we're asking. That's like.
Yeah, absolutely, and, you know, this isn't gonna be a huge business, though.
Right.
But where the conversation gets more in line with what you're saying is how much social service space, community space, how big is the community building gonna be? How big, are we gonna have a healthcare center, a daycare center, you know, and many other different kinds of programs, a school, a different, you can't do all of that into open housing, so you're right, that there's a trade-off between residential and non-residential uses, and it's a delicate balance, and, we are going to do as much housing as makes sense on the site. And we will certainly bring back 122 units and go way past that, so, everybody who currently lives at Heritage Park will have a home on the new site. So, that's the number one priority, and from there we'll go up.
So Mona, it was also there, although we asked about the space and development, want to make sure that we live to, talking about, you know, the development opportunities for minority women and small businesses. And as you all probably know, the city of Raleigh has, the Raleigh Housing Authority has goals they have set for minority women and small business firms to participate in construction of the development. So that, in a lot of things, when we start talking about the actual construction of the development, right now, I'm thinking design. And I want to make sure that this should be asked about the minority businesses, that we have business opportunity to talk about opportunities that these businesses will have. As well as residents who might, live in Heritage Park, who have businesses there, it's supposed to be an emphasis on identifying those who, group of owners in particular, see there are opportunities for them to have, whether it's providing business services, some like subcontracting, if they might provide painting, floor, masonry, concrete, whatever that might be. In addition to making sure that these are intentional, or the development team is intentional around workforce development opportunities. So if we have construction firms who are on the site and they need laborers, so they need skilled laborers, and they can, make that known to RHA and its residents, so that we can also promote, workforce development. I'm proud to say I have hired a resident, who's working with, BL Wall Consulting, doing some of our community engagements, one of our contractors. So I'm pleased to help led the way in doing that. So I'm sure the other teams will identify opportunities as well as they present themselves.
Didn't come over here to a question, but I wanted to make one more plug, and that's for the website. So some of this will be, especially the public meetings, will all be available through the website. So even after this meeting, which Katie's recording, we're gonna upload that. So it's another opportunity. If you're not able to get here in person, you're not able to come see us at Heritage Park, you can stay plugged into what's happening with the big public meetings through the website. And the evening meetings will also be on Zoom, live on Zoom, right? Right. Yeah, he's on.
So how is this gonna affect surrounding areas? Cause I live in the apartments adjacent to, Gateway Park. How is this gonna affect Gateway Park? Cause like beside us, they're building all these big high rise, like, so, cause I've been asking my house manager for years, before they even started, like, are they coming to these apartments? Can we get a heads up with that? And they're saying no.
So the question is about what's the impact outside of the bounds of Heritage Park, especially with adjacent communities and apartment buildings. We're not proposing anything outside the bounds of Heritage Park for this site. We know that there have been lots of developments and lots of new market rate development adjacent to the site, and that's part of the, the economic pressure, I guess, or part of the concern about the gentrification and displacement. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid and working hard to not happen at Heritage Park. And we have a couple of ways to do that, right? It's housing authority, it's a Raleigh Housing Authority land, right? So its purpose is for affordable housing, that all of this will go through a city process that is very public and very open about what is happening. So that's the part that kicks off in the spring, and there's more opportunity for conversation. And you don't have to ask your landlord what's going on. I say that because I don't know your landlord, but I know what's happening at Heritage Park. And that I will say is a big reason that RHA has chosen this kind of process and this team, so that before anything happens, before we're even drawn, there is lots of conversation about what the concern is. And my hope, and what we've seen happen in other places, is that has a positive impact on what's happening across the street and outside the boundaries, and doesn't push people.
Thank you.
So if I could just add one thing, this isn't directly at your question, but we conceive of this project as development without displacement. We're not bringing gentrification to this area. This area is already seeing massive amounts of inflow of private money. And so this is an anti-gentrification effort to make sure that there will always be a place for people who live in Heritage Park today to stay within the community. And in a much better neighborhood that, in better housing, but in a community that is truly a community that has all of the bells and whistles that you want in a healthy community, like the kind of amenities we're talking about bringing to this beyond the housing.
How do you look for such a guarantee when there's already a destination 2028?
So reference to the destination 2028, which I think is a Raleigh, I don't know, tourism booster kind of plan. And how can we make those promises with this, destination 28 that's about bringing tourism and bringing people, how can we make those promises? I'll come back to, this is Raleigh Housing Authority land, that its purpose is affordable housing, that our, direction is 122 families taken care of, replacement housing, plus more affordable housing, plus more opportunity for affordable housing residents, not a market rate driven, not a tourist destination. And that comes all down to who owns the property. And that's the housing authority, and that's their mission.
But I want to say one other thing. You're gonna hold our feet to the fire. Make sure we do the right thing. That's how you know that it's gonna happen this way. Because you're gonna come and make sure that we're not lying to you.
That's the better answer.
That sounds good. But okay, listen, but and then the thing I wanna say, when you say about the housing authority. Then you have to question how our housing authority is now moving and changing their project from the public housing to the RAD in the section 18. Section 8, how they're changing that now.
Yeah.
So they're not interested in public housing buildings anymore. They're interested in having a separate nonprofit that will own and manage type of thing, which was a question about this particular entity that they've had at some of their board meetings. So it's still a question of how do you make this guarantee for this group of people with those two things covering over, and you really have no control of.
Well, I will guarantee you one thing. You continue down the path that public housing has gone for the past 60 years, and you won't have anything left in a very short period of time. So if you don't try something new, you're gonna end up with nothing. And so all I can tell you is that the federal government, year after year, has underfunded public housing, which got you into this mess in the first place. You're supposed to get 100 cents on the dollar, they give you 83 cents. The next year, they gave you 82 cents. The next year, they gave you 86 cents. And this deficit that they've been giving year after year after year has led to an underfunding of all the developments across the United States. The most recent numbers that I saw is there is $75 million worth of unfunded work that needs to be done on public housing across the country. On the other hand, the Section 8 program, the Section 8 platform that this is being moved to, has never been underfunded. It's always been funded by Congress 100 cents on the dollar. And does that mean that the future will resemble the past? No, there's no guarantee of that. The only guarantee is that if we continue down the current path, the end is not pretty. So we're trying a new approach, one that has over many year history been much more stable funding source for housing people who need housing assistance. So I hope that the federal government continues to fund affordable housing through that program, through the Section 8 program, over the long run, and it's a better bet than the Section 9 program, which is public housing. So there are no guarantees in life, but this is a much better bet.
So when Tara asking the question of guarantee, can we discuss the zoning that is there that will allow you guys to go higher? Is that already? There's a capability within zoning, or what we start continuing from approving that, it doesn't figure where they want to be in that area.
You know, there's a lot of places we work in the country where we came in with a plan to build up for affordable housing. There'd be such NIMBYism that we'd be shut down and we wouldn't be able to get zoning to do it. That's not what's going on here in Raleigh. We've heard from Congress, from council person after council person, that affordable housing is a major priority, and they want to make sure that every opportunity they have here in Raleigh to build affordable housing, that they do it. And, we've heard this specifically from several different council people. And so we do not believe that we're gonna have that much difficulty getting zoning for buildings that are taller than are there currently, especially because of the context around it, including directly across the street and down the street, where they're now under construction with buildings that are touching the sky.
So that is absolutely correct, and they do allow for the skyscrapers for luxury apartments that is capitalized and gentrified. However, those things, council members that give you that guarantee is $1,000,000, is the most heavily gentrified district here in our city. So those are the same ones that allow those families to be displaced and homeless, that is adding to the 69,000 homeless people in our county right now. So I understand what you're saying about those that you talk to, but while we're doing this process, are we proactive instead of having to be reactive later when they are not approving what we're asking and working with?
Yeah, that's why we've invited the zoning folks to all of our meetings. We've sat down with them in City Hall and brought them here. They've been part of the process from the very beginning. So yes, we've been proactive, and I guarantee that you folks will hold their feet to the fire to make sure they do the right thing.
So I'm glad you guys have the mindset of trusting the city council, but we know different. So I definitely understand, and I don't want to rain on your hopes and your aspirations, because this is good. I absolutely love and appreciate the amount of effort that you put in with truly engaging in the community, right? But if we can be realistic, because this is lived experience, this is what we know. How it happens once it goes before city council. So is there a way that you guys can begin in the zoning while we're doing it, so that if you can go up to 6 weeks? I mean, in our last meeting, we were talking about elevators in the building and everything. So if we can get up to the place where you get elevators, can we make sure the zoning is there? So that these people who live there, and unfortunately I don't, so I'm just the advocate on behalf of the community, but so that this is not for nothing.
That's why we've been engaging with folks in zoning from the very beginning. They've been part of this. They've been encouraging us to develop buildings that make sense to provide more affordable housing for folks in Raleigh. So we've been proactive, and we think that there will not be a problem. In fact, I've never had a problem anywhere getting zoning for a project working in cities where the folks want it. I've only had problems in cities where they don't want it. And this is not one of those cities. So I'm very heartened by the conversations that we've been having. And if anything, they're pushing us to go higher than we'd like to go. So I don't think zoning is gonna be the real difference. I think financing is gonna be the real difference. Paying for all of this, that's where the rubber hits the road. So that's our challenge, and we'll work on that.
But that's also another guarantee of the affordability, right? That the financing mechanisms come with strings attached that say this shall be affordable at these rates. So that's another place where the guarantee happens, where the guarantee of affordable housing happens. I'll say the zoning issue is something that's been very much on the housing authority's mind. It's something they were talking to us about last January, a year ago. They wanted to make sure that part was covered. As Peter said, when you're working with the city, whether it's staff or council or a bunch of people, a bunch of different people from different places within city government, asking for the same thing, it feels like we can get this done. We're not talking about something radical like 20-story buildings either. We do a 4-story building, there's an elevator in that building. So even at 4 stories, we're talking about elevators. And I'll come back to this then, the slope. So all of this hill means it might feel lower on one side and higher on the other side because you're building into the hill. So that's part of what we're thinking about and working with too. And see if there's anybody else that we haven't heard from. I see no hands, so we'll come back. Go ahead. Sorry.
And the results come back from there was something that had to be done with the housing authority to find out if it was feasible to redevelop Heritage Park. Has that study came back, to be approved and has the application been submitted?
The section 18 demo dispo application has not yet been submitted.
And wouldn't be until there's a plan for what happens. Now, do 122 families get taken care of plus? Yes, ma'am.
That was not, but it's difficult, because it's taking so long, and we're going to do that up so long.
Yeah, this I'd say is that you're gonna be, yeah, so the question is, why hasn't that happened yet? What can we do to move this along? And I'd say this is the key, to develop that plan and then take it to the next steps. But we're not gonna get a demolition disposition plan approved until they say, well, what are you gonna do with it when it's torn down? There has to be a viable plan for the 122 plus more affordable before that application can even go. Yes, ma'am.
As far as business wise, what else are y'all looking to fund, or how are y'all going to get it in order to, help the businesses bring in greater revenue, and help them rise above that?
Yeah, can you talk about business funding and maybe we even expand this to some of the amenity programs, but the partnership is the key.
Yeah, I mean, the way we as the housing developer, we're building these mixed income, mixed use buildings can help most is providing below market rents within the building and working with others who know how to work with businesses, Raleigh Raised and their friends and other nonprofits in Raleigh to help support the growth of African-American business development. And so we're looking forward to having people present themselves to us saying, hey, we're a viable business, we're backed by this organization, give us a shot. Let's look at your business plan. Let's figure out how to make it work. We're not going to be funding the businesses directly, but we will not charge the market rate of rent for the spaces. And that's our contribution.
Will the state completely be closed out to the Heritage Park, or will it outside folks such as been alone? Because I think it's not that a lot like that is not up. Will it be so far travel and museum?
So we can't control anything that's off the site. So it's the only spaces we'll have control over what's on the site.
So you can get a job.
Yeah, so, what we've done in the past is when we've worked with an organization that has assisted multiple businesses and we can't accommodate somebody on site, we've helped them find other space off-site. But we can't subsidize rent that's not within one of our buildings.
Because somebody you can have a watch tonight, right? But then something I can be about and now to bring everyone has a watch in right. Maybe.
So you're talking, so you're like pivoting there, we're talking about helping businesses to some of the amenities within the actual community. So I would suggest in tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, when you go on the site, that's the type of information you want to say to the designers that's, one of your main wish lists, like to have a washer and a dryer. So that they can, see how they can configure that into their design. But I want to go back to the original question you asked about providing funding for businesses. On some development projects and other construction projects, which we've worked with DOL, so we have worked with organizations that are set up specifically to help minority women and small businesses. The Carolinas Small Business Development Company, the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development. And so those are the type of resources that DOL is having to partner with the Raleigh Housing Authority and the developers if they would like to put together some type of collaboration or partnership such that we can use those, organizations that are for potential funding for small businesses, for this particular project. And that's something that we looked at with, Durham Housing Authority, where they in place actually had them come and speak about the services that they provide and the resources they provide to small businesses. So that's something that I'm happy to help them with and, collaborate.
Well, we're really looking forward to getting started. So you want to take us out, Murphy?
We're here all week. Drop by and see us. Come check in on progress, tomorrow night or on the Zoom. You're welcome to do that. Check the website, the address is up here, and please, drop in and see us at Heritage Park, talk to us about washers and dryers and safe parks and everything else that's on your mind. All right. Thank you.